Hi, welcome everyone. I'm so happy to have you here. So, I feel like I really wanted to share today's topic because I guarantee you it's going to hit home at least for 90% of you. So, before we get into our deep topic, I just want to introduce myself and especially to everyone who's joining me for the first time. Hi, I'm Srina Aluwalia. I'm a psychologist and also an editorial consultant. So I work at this beautiful intersection where science meets soul, where psychology meets intuition. Because it's really boring to just do a clinical evaluation of anything, right? What matters is when we understand the person right in front of us, when we really understand where they're coming from, and then help them rather than just look at a textbook and just diagnose people. So, based on that, this topic that I've chosen is basically emotional spending. And it's a topic I've chosen simply because of all the cases I'm seeing. Like, there has been a rise in people really going into retail therapy to escape their emotions. And that's why I thought it's important to talk about it. So, basically, emotional spending is जब आपके emotions आपका wallet control करते हैं. Like a lot of times it feels right that, oh my god, I had a breakup, tub of ice cream, or let me just take myself shopping or to the spa, to the salon, and just spruce myself up. It's a very common, natural human instinct. But the only problem is when sometimes we take it a bit too far. Because ups and downs keep happening, and our wallet or bank balance may not always be equipped enough to handle it. And of course, there are a lot of times when our future self has to be safe and secure. And that cannot happen if our present self just continues to arbitrarily spend. So, before any of you say, nah, that's not me, I'm very responsible with money or I don't spend it like that, let's just see some examples. And if they resonate with you, so please do tell me in the comments, even an emoji will do. So, have you ever had a terrible day at work and ended up ordering something online just to feel better? Like, have you ever gone through a breakup and suddenly your Mintra cart has 14 items in it? Or you felt anxious about the future and thought, let me just treat myself. And then that treat turned into three treats and a subscription you didn't need. Like to me personally, there have been times when, especially after a stressful period, like for me, that is mostly when I'm giving exams or something. After the exams, to get out of the mental fog, I like to get a subscription, whether that's Netflix, Amazon, Z5, anything, just for a month or two. And to be honest, like it turns into a total binge watching session. I will not get out of the house. They're just 8 or 9 hours and just straight watching. For me, it's mostly crime, but I mean, anything under the sun. So, but that's not a really good way to handle emotions. And that happens basically, or rather simply, because when the exams were going on or when that anxious period was going on, I just let myself go. I overworked my nervous system that it needs that level of a break. And that's a bad way to cope. The better way to cope would obviously be to have a bit of a balance, that even if there are exams going on, you take it easy, that you study for some hours, you sleep for a lot of hours, you take care of your nutrition, your water intake, and so on. So that's something I lack. And of course, like a lot of times I get into this thing that okay, now that I've passed or like I'm done with my exams or the tough period, so then I prefer that, okay, now is the time to treat myself. Or maybe even with people who are on a diet or strict schedule of exercise and all, we do the same thing, right? Because we feel that, okay, now witness सारे दिन कुछ नहीं खाया and we didn't really have fun. So let's go and have fun. And that fun may not always be in proportion or in moderation. Like whether it's going out for drinking or even binge eating junk food like Zomato day to day or something, the only issue with anything is to do it in moderation. A lot of us don't have that gap. So the next time you feel like, okay, I'm going to order a pizza burger, ice cream and everything, or I'm going to have, shots plus tequila plus whiskey the same night. So just help yourself decide a bit that do I need to expunge or do everything at one moment? Wouldn't it be better to phase it out? Like instead of having a cheat day every month, why don't you have it every week so that you will still be in moderation? Like instead of having the whole day of junk food once a month, you would rather have like, okay, once a week, one meal, I can have what I want, whether that's instant noodles, pizza, or same thing with drinks or anything. Because whether a lot of things are sometimes really bad for our body in the long term. So coming back to the topic, let's start with some quick emojis if you relate to this. Okay. So, one thing I really want to mention here is that it's not a big deal of emotional spending or any other thing if you can just accept that you do it, because the first step is acceptance. Because once we accept that, okay, I do this, we can always work on it. क्योंकि हम सब करते हैं, you're not alone. The question is, why do we do it and how do we stop? That's what we are unpacking today. So, when we think of it, don't ever consider yourself to be, oh my God, well, this is my bad habit and I can never get out of this or it'll never break and everything. But that's not the way to think. The only first step, like I mentioned, is acceptance. So, how about we just say a small acceptance here? Affirmation that I accept myself even though sometimes I engage in harmful spending, eating, or basically I connect my emotions to my spending. Just an acceptance. You can say it in whatever words you feel like. Like, yes, I accept that this is my bad habit that I have to work on. Simple. So now, in my practice, whether it's psychology sessions or even getting first time editing clients, I see so many people, men and women, various ages, various phases of career, etc., who come to me saying that I don't know where my money goes, or I earn well, but I'm always broke, or I keep buying things and I don't even use them. Or, and this one is really common, I know I shouldn't be spending, but I can't stop. So you see, as we dig deeper, when we really sit with it, it's never about the money. It's always the emotional pattern, the emotional baggage we are carrying. See, पैसे का problem rarely सिर्फ पैसे का होता है. It's a relationship problem disguised as a money problem. It's a self-worth problem, wearing the mask of a shopping habit. It's grief, pretending to be a treat yourself moment. And it doesn't always just show up in shopping, okay? Because it can show in a lot of ways. For example, if we consider career decisions, so sometimes people might take a lower paying job because you feel that nahi mujhse nahi ho payega. You already self reject yourself, and that's not a really good way of handling stuff. Sometimes we have to have a little bit of belief in ourselves that nahi, I will try. It's okay, whatever happens, whether I get rejected, whether I don't, I will give my 200%. And that's all. So I have been seeing a lot of reels about people, or rather one woman especially, because she is a seriously superwoman. Like she's so inspirational. I do forget her name for now. But basically, she's on a rejection spree. So her goal every day is to get rejected. Sounds silly, right? But when you look at the logic and the results, you will say that phenomenal way of thinking. So basically, her objective is to get rejected. How can she do that? To get rejected, you have to apply for something. So she applies to opportunities to whether that is something like a scholarship, traveling opportunity, fully funded, or a job opportunity, interview, etc. No matter what, she applies to it without fear of whether I'll get it, whether I don't get it. Her objective is to get rejected. So, and what this does is that obviously it doesn't mean that For example, if she's a lawyer, so she'll give a doctor exam. No, we are not saying that. Anything that applies to your growth, your potential, or anything you wanted to do in life, we are just saying take the chance. So, coming back to her story, she does do that. And when you see her reels, like she got a chance to do a model walk on a ramp. She got some amazing, high paying, awesome job that maybe she would not have got if she didn't shoot her shot. So that's what my point is. If your takeaway from this video right now that you're watching is nothing else except that I accept myself and that I'm okay with rejection. These are incredibly tough things to handle, but I feel once this mindset shift takes place, it makes things super easy. So let's see. Sometimes emotional spending may also happen in relationships. Like you may overspend on a partner to keep them happy because you fear abandonment. Or in family dynamics, buying things for parents, for siblings, for relatives out of guilt, not love. So, for a lot of us, I think, especially as Desi children, it would ring home because most of our Desi moms and dads do this, right? Like you see them criticizing relatives or saying like ye ho gaya tha, wo ho gaya tha, but when they visit your house or if it's anything like nahi, I have to do it. That is all because of guilt. That is all because somewhere they feel that nahi, this is the way I have to act, so I cannot step back from it. That's why if you go and ask Papa ye je, he'll be like, मेरे पास पैसे नहीं है, but it's not the same for relatives. So I hope you connect with that. Do let me know if you do in the comments. And another thing is, this is quite a layered topic. So let's just unpack it together like we have been doing. So I'll tell you one client story, and obviously we will take care of our privacy, non-judgmental. This is a very safe place. So I'm only sharing this because I feel it might really relate to you all. Of course, I won't be taking her real name. So let's call her Nana. Okay, we'll call her Nana. And so this was basically a client who was 29 years old. She worked in an MNC. She had a super awesome salary, like genuinely good money. But she was, in fact, even earning more than most people her age. She came to me initially for career guidance. She wanted to know if she should switch jobs, and if yes, then which company, which sector exactly, and all that. So while we were talking, something else came up. And she very casually said that I don't know why, but by the 15th of every month, my salary is basically gone. And obviously, I asked, like, okay, but are we keeping touch in terms of spending? Like, where exactly does it disappear? And she just couldn't fully explain. And she just said, just stuff online shopping, dinners, Ubers, random things. So I dug deeper. I asked her, Nana, tell me what a typical bad day looks like for you. And she described this. Her manager would criticize her in a meeting publicly. We've all been there. She'd feel humiliated, small, not good enough. She'd come back to her desk, finish her work in silence, go home, and the first thing she'd do, give herself a little bit of a treat, whether that was Zara, Nika, Swiggy, Zomato, anything, just a treat. Obviously, like office mein pura din hona is not something that happens once in a blue moon, right? It can happen fairly regularly, and it does. Because a lot of our corporate people who are watching this can comment that how often it happens. So you can say maybe this was happening like 4 times a week, or if we want to reduce it, even 2 times a week. But when you think in terms of monetary terms, it really does add up. So she didn't need anything from any of these websites. It was not out of necessity or something like that, because it was just in that moment, the act of buying something gave her a tiny bit of control. She was like, I couldn't obviously say something to my manager, but my finger on the buy now button gives me a little bit of empowerment back. It makes me feel that, yeah, living a successful life, I can buy this. I wanted to, I did it. You understand the pattern that is happening here. So, and the Her brain would basically say, the world has told you you're not enough. But look, you can have this, you deserve this. And her थोड़ा सा भी जो shred of control था वो सब निकल जाता है every week. So basically, it was a coping mechanism. She wasn't a shopaholic in a traditional sense. Like, she wasn't that, oh my god, I have to buy. It was just a coping mechanism. She was using her spending as a painkiller. And the saddest part, the relief lasted maybe 30 minutes. And then the guilt would come. Why did I buy this? I don't even need this. I'm so irresponsible with money. And that guilt would make her feel terrible again. And what would she do to cope with that feeling? Buy something else. It was a cycle, a loop: pain, spend, belief, relief, guilt, more pain, spend again. Sounds familiar? Yeah, so it does, right? But the fact is that a lot of times we feel like, oh my God, I did this, I did that. In fact, like especially people who are on a diet or exercise might relate to this, that your trainers or even your nutritionist might tell you that अगर ऐसा कोई दिन हो that okay, I was following my diet but सुबह my self control just sort of lost to my cravings and I had instant noodles or I had cookies or even ordered a pizza. Many people will say, see, I'm not worth anything, I cannot do this diet, and dinner will also be something junk food or whatever they shouldn't have eaten. In some ways, I'm not saying any food is bad or good, but in their mindset, it won't be the food they should have eaten. So, another way to think about this is okay, if lunch or dinner, one meal wasn't exactly in my plan, it doesn't mean the next meal cannot be. I can come back to the next meal. Like, for example, if you had a bit of an indulgence, which is perfectly fine, whether we have Oreos or anything. So, you can always say, okay, let me just have some fruit. See, it's just a mindset change because being guilty or blaming ourselves is just not going to help. It doesn't help anyone. So, also, if the story, my examples, any of this relates to you, then please type yes in the chat box or just tell me what you emotionally spent on. So let's see what we did with Nana. So I'll just first tell you what is the psychology behind emotional spending. So let's get into the why, कि क्यों होता है ये, what's happening in your brain when you emotionally spend. So number one is dopamine. Now, when you buy something, especially something new, exciting, shiny, your brain releases dopamine. That's the feel good chemical. It's the same chemical that gets released when you eat chocolate. When you get likes on Instagram, when someone you like texts you back, your brain loves dopamine and it will do anything to get it. So, uh, in fact, I like want to tell you a childhood example that many people might relate to this, that you might have gone with your parents to buy something and when you were young you used to see those toys nicely wrapped up, whether that was Barbies, Hot Wheels, everything. Even kitchen sets used to be wrapped up so well, or even doctor sets. So you used to be like mujhe ye chahiye, and whatever happened, like they see parents ka na ha and all that, and then you would buy that, bring it back home. And the moment you opened it, you would feel like, oh my god, I'm so happy I finally got it, this, that. And in a half an hour or 1 hour, the excitement fades. Because that was your dopamine thing happening. There was like an explosion in your mind. Because after that time, the novelty of thing reduces. So, when we think of dopamine, it's obviously the feel good chemical. And when you're feeling low, anxious, bored, or heartbroken, your brain is looking for the fastest way to feel good. And obviously, in 2026, the fastest way is like super fast. One click, add to cart, order placed, dopamine hit delivered faster than Zepto, Blinkit, and Instacart, right? So now we come to the illusion of control. And this is huge, especially for people who feel like life is chaotic. Whether it's a toxic relationship, a stressful job, family pressure, uncertainty about the future, when everything feels out of control. Spending money gives you a feeling of at least this I can control. I chose this. I decide this. This is mine. It's an illusion. I know in the moment it feels so real. It feels like, oh my God, what am I doing? It feels almost like, you're the CEO of something and you're buying and selling Corona companies or whatever. Like you're the boss of the earth and everything. But then reality hits hard. And that's all we have to do. The acceptance in this part is basically that sometimes we buy things to fill a gap that no product can fill. It's basically our loneliness. यू नो एंड ये जो हम एक इमोशनल वॉइड इन चीज़ों से फिल करने की कोशिश करते हैं इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल राइट बिकॉज इट्स लाइक दोज puzzles where there is a circle and you are fixing a star up whether it might fit for some time but you shake the box and it will fall out because it does not go there, right? And sometimes you might feel unseen, you might feel underappreciated and all that, and you think that okay, let me just buy a new blazer, some pants, heels, and I'll feel better. You might. It's totally possible that sometimes you just need a pick me up, but a lot of times the issue is much deeper. And the issue again comes back to acceptance. You have to accept yourself because the day we leave our assumptions or presumptions which other people have about us behind, that day we can actually be happy in our own company, in our own value, in our own worth. So I've had clients who shop after every fight with their spouse, clients who spend lavishly on dates because they think कि you know अगर मैं पैसा नहीं खर्च करूंगा तो she won't like me. And that's not true because not everyone is interested in your deep pockets. They might be wanting you to show how deep your heart is, what sort of effort you can make without the money as well. See, giving somebody gifts or spending sometimes on them, making them feel loved is a great thing to do, and you should definitely do that. Nobody is complaining. But to make it seem or to attach your own value that, okay, I will feel loved only if I give somebody some money or a gift is what we are calling out here. Okay. So this is not spending basically, it's just emotional survival that if I don't give gifts or if I don't give money, they won't stay. But maybe the question you should ask yourself is, do you want somebody to stay who cares only about monetary stuff? Because such a person will never truly care about you, right? And then it's just a cycle of unhappiness because what you crave from them, you have sort of conditioned them to never give you, and that is love for free, for you, for who you are. So it might be controversial, but I would say that if there is a choice of being in a relationship with somebody where you have to constantly prove, especially because in today's session we're talking about money. So if you have to constantly prove by spending money, by doing anything for them, then maybe it's much better to stay single. And it might seem like a revelation or like, oh my God, I can never do that. But maybe give yourself some chance, give yourself time to grow into the person who can withstand that. Okay, I don't need some crutch to stand on for my relationships. And बहुत बार हमारे spending patterns हमारे बचपन से आते हैं. You might have grown up in a house where money was tight and now you overspend because you're overcompensating, because you might feel that nahi, bachpan mein I didn't have all this, so now I can buy it, so I will buy hordes of stuff. And obviously it doesn't fulfill, right? Because your spending money now is not going to change your childhood. For that, maybe come to therapy. Right. So, and it can also happen where you might feel that you were rewarded with things. So, if you got good grades, gift, if you behaved well, new toys. So now your brain associates, I did something hard. I deserve a purchase. I deserve something. This is very common. But it might also happen that you had a parent who would emotionally spend, you know, and we inherit these patterns, not just genes. So let me just think about what this means. And obviously, anything that resonates with you, then please do mention it in the comments or DM me for a session if you like. So, let's talk about different scenarios where emotional spending shows up. Now, I want to break this down across different areas of life because emotional spending is not just about shopping, it shows up everywhere. For example, let's talk about the big one in relationships. Have you ever been with someone who you feel like you had to constantly buy their affection? And you did because you're terrified that if you stop spending, they'll lose interest. Or you thought after a breakup, let's have the revenge glow up spending. Dekho, I'm better than you, I'm living my good life, and I'm so happy without you. So, but both of these things may show you that your credit card bill was not happy. And the thing is, both scenarios may we are giving more importance to people who may not have the same, um, they may not give us the same darja. They would basically for us we are the for them we are the side characters, and here we are, whether in revenge, whether in love, we are अपना सब कुछ हम लुटा रहे हैं. So now coming to a different thing, when we explore this in therapy, the relationship part which I just mentioned, I'll give you an example. So keeping confidentiality in mind, I had a client and he was called, let's say, Rohan. So he was 34, he had a good career, but every relationship he'd been in, he was the one spending on everything. And he would come and say, why do I attract people who only want me for my money? And the few times his date tried to, like pay for him or maybe have a half bill or whatever, split the bill. So at that time, his fragile male ego would just come up and say, like, no, no, I'm the man, I have to spend that. I'm not going to use a woman's money, this, that. But his complaint was that nobody ever spent money on me. So you see the patterns we are in, you see the conditioned voices we have. Like inside, obviously, like any person, he wanted somebody to, give him gifts, make him feel loved. But do you allow the other person to do that? No. You just constantly, you've already blocked yourself from all sides. So that is one pattern that we can explore. And when we saw his past, his case study, so he grew up with a father who was emotionally absent, never said, I loved you, never showed up to school events, but he would buy Rohan expensive things, basically as a way of telling him that, okay, well, I'm sorry I couldn't spend time to you, so here you are. And obviously, he was also the type that no, matlab, I earn money, so nobody else should spend, especially a woman. And that pattern is also continuing. So you see two separate patterns, two separate ideologies really working together. And so for Rohan, he wasn't attracting gold diggers. He was unconsciously setting up a dynamic where money was the language of love because that's all he knew. So heavy, right? So, coming to the next part in career and money, some people emotionally spend in their career by undercharging. Like, ये भी emotional spending है, just in reverse. You're spending your time, energy, skill at a discount because emotionally you feel I'm not worth more. Freelancers who underquote, employees who never ask for a raise, business owners who give discounts to everyone because they feel guilty charging full price. Now I know some of you might feel that I have never met these people. Who are these people? And everywhere we see people trying to overcharge and cause make us spend a lot more than we actually wanted. But yes, there are some people and they get taken for a ride because of which they feel that I'm worthless and I'm not even good at my career. There is also, and why this happens is basically because your emotions are controlling your financial decisions. Because there's a difference between generosity, there's a difference between being charitable. Like, it's a great whether you want to feed orphans, you would like to spend time at an old age home, you would like to sponsor somebody's education, or maybe if you have a heart of gold, you want to feed all the stray dogs, cats. That's amazing. God bless. you to whoever it is, if anybody of y'all does this. But you should do this within your means, because अगर आप ही नहीं रहोगे, so then how would you help? It's the same airplane, you know, way of thinking, that first you wear your own oxygen mask and then help the other person. Because if you're lying there dead, then your family, friends, or even if you were helping a stranger, they their survival chances also reduce. So that's why they say पहले अपना mask फिर दूसरे का. So that's the same thing we should keep in mind here. That no matter how guilty you feel, or even if you want to be, like open your heart and give, make sure that your wallet has enough for you too as well. Because you can only, the number of people you help will increase when you can increase your own financial abilities. And there's also the flip side, that people who overspend to look successful. Now, this we all know, because India mein shadiyan especially happen because of this thing, right? That you, chahe whether we have something or not, it should seem that we are the most uh, ex- uh, richest people alive ever. So, and a lot of times we see this in news as well, that people will literally spend money they just do not have on weddings and other such stuff, just to keep up with appearances, to keep up with log kya kahenge. So this is also in terms of emotions, because obviously you feel that your worth is how expensive your car is, whether your branded clothes are rented or not. Like you will do everything except saving money and actually making sure that maybe one day I can really enjoy them. Because somewhere these sort of people feel, if I look rich, I'll feel worthy. Coming to family dynamics. Now, guilt spending on parents, like this is so common in Indian families and vice versa. Parents obviously guilt spend on children as well. Like मम्मी ने इतना किया मेरे लिए तो मैं उन्हें ये दे दूं, पापा ने कभी कुछ नहीं मांगा तो मैं उनके लिए ये खरीद लूं. Definitely beautiful sentiment. Like I totally agree with it. There's obviously a time when we should definitely give back to our parents, or like our siblings, or whoever the family is, because giving somebody things is a way of showing love. It's also a love language. But there's a difference between giving from love and giving from guilt. So the issue here is your emotion behind the giving. If saying no to a family expense makes you feel like a terrible person, that's not generosity. And anybody who is a Reddit fan will definitely agree with this, because especially ITA articles on Reddit, like they just explain this perfectly. Like for example, if there's a wedding of your sibling or whatever is happening, and your parents say, "Nahi, you will kharch karo," and all that, and you might not have that money, right? So it's important that your family accepts that, okay, I do not have it, I cannot spend it, right? That acceptance is necessary. That level of communication is very essential, because family dynamics are very complicated. Totally agree. And sometimes na bolna is like death, but that is the pattern we have to get out of. So, for example, let's do a quick poll. I want you to type a number in the chat. That type 1 if you mostly emotionally spend in relationships. Type 2 if it shows up in your career money decisions. Type 3 if it's in family dynamics. And type 4 if it's honestly all of the above. Let me see those numbers. Okay. So now that we are actually sort of done with this, I will tell you, because now you might say सारा problem वगैरह तो बता दिया, but कोई solution ही नहीं दिया इसके बारे में. Okay, so let's see. Because now we have understood the what, the why, the where. Let's talk about the how. So how do you actually start changing this pattern? Step one, the pause rule. This is the simplest and most powerful thing you can start right now, Abhi se Turant, today itself. So before any purchase that is not a necessity, whether, if, for example, in necessary items, it would be like groceries, rent, bill. Now these are obviously very essential to leave these out of this. But any other purchase, like supposing you want to buy a dress, Supposing you want to buy a shirt, supposing you want to buy a beard trimmer, anything, just pause and ask yourself that am I buying this because of dopamine that market mein naya aaya hai? Am I buying this because I feel like I deserve this? Am I buying this because I need it? See, there's nothing wrong with the first two also. You can definitely give yourself a treat, you can definitely be happy with your purchase. The problem arises when people justify the first two with the last reason. That नई ड्रेस चाहिए थी, जरूरत थी, maybe not. That is only for you to guess. But just make sure that whatever you buy, you're labeling it correctly. Again, you accept that this is the reason why I'm buying the dress, not some galat malat reason, not some jhoot moot reason, any reason. And this is not to prove to me, to anyone, to society, to parents, no one. It's just for you. So that you understand, okay, I'm spending by what is the emotion behind my spending. So this pause will help you really understand that, because a lot of times we just say chahiye and all that, but like kal koi event hai, kal koi function hai, do you really need a new blazer, a new briefcase? You might have already, right? And that's all we want you to do. Take this pause, take it for a day, for an hour, or sometimes it might help to just take it for 10 minutes. In those 10 minutes, ask yourself one question. Am I buying this because I need it or because I'm feeling something? If the answer is I'm feeling something, name the feeling. Am I stressed? Am I lonely? Am I bored? Am I heartbroken? Am I angry? Once you name the feeling, the urge to spend often reduces, because our brain is very funny. Sometimes it just wants to be acknowledged. And when you do that, it's way easier to get your brain and your cravings and your all your emotions into control. So, step two, track the trigger, not just the transaction. Most budgeting apps will tell you where your money went, but they don't tell you why. Like even on Paytm, you will get a list now that is pe kharch kiya, and all that. But obviously, they can't tell you kyun kharch kiya. That only you can tell. So, how about we take a page out of Japanese philosophy and we start a simple journal or even a notes app, whatever works for you. If you do a journal like old times with a pen, pencil, paper, it might help you because you might be giving your eyes a rest, and it's a little bit different, right? Because you might, it's just a way of rewiring your brain that okay, I was spending online via card or via UPI or anything else, but now I am actually writing it. My money went here. So it's just a way of doing that. If, of course, you are more of a safe paper person like I am, just use the notes app. So every time you make an emotional purchase, write down what did I buy? How was I feeling before I bought it? What happened today that triggered this feeling? Do this for 30 days. I promise you, there will be a crystal clear pattern that will emerge. And once you see the pattern, you can change the pattern. जो दिखता है वो फिक्स होता है. So moving on to step 3. Replace the ritual, not the relief. So your brain wants relief. That's fair, that's valid. हम ये नहीं कह रहे हैं कि आपको कभी अच्छा फील नहीं करना चाहिए, right? Because happiness is very important. But we need to give your brain a different way to feel that relief. So, some of the common ways are obviously to connect with nature. Like if you feel like, okay, office ka bahut bura din tha, I'm just feeling so low, so depressed. How about going for a walk? You know, how about just, for example, I live in Hyderabad. So any Hyderabadis here would be like, why not just go to Tank Band and take a walk around the lake? It's just an example which might apply to obviously every city, state, country in the world. So another thing that would also help is maybe just exercising, dancing, singing, any sort of hobby that you want, that you used to practice, or how about you want to learn, or actually not everything has to be a hobby. Like a lot of people might be like, "Nay, I don't like to dance and anything." How about you just do a bit of Zumba? Like these days, every possible item that we can search is on YouTube. So how about like just a quick 5 minute stretch, something to get up, just to shake out the muscle? Because a lot of our stress is invariably gets stored in our body, in our different body parts, in like our movements, our joints, and a little bit of that spontaneous activity really helps. So another thing that might help is a breathing exercise. Now there are apps there, or there are even anything that you just type mindfulness exercise, breathing exercise will come to you. For the next session, I'm planning a mindfulness exercise, so please do join that so that you can do that exercise whenever you feel any sort of anxiety, insomnia, or just want to give your nervous system a break. Now, another thing that might work is how about to create a feel good menu, a list of 5 things that make you feel better that cost 0 rupees. Like for me, it is eating ice. Like I love ice, so of course I do it very rarely now. So, um, first of all, it helps because it cools me down. And another thing it helps is 0 calories. You get some water intake and hydration feel as well. And of course, it costs 0 rupees. So, that is my way of coping. I know it might not be for everyone. So, this can be anything. For example, a lot of people like doodling, scribbling. These are all zero activities. Take some waste paper and doodle kar liya. It might seem very small, but creativity really gets your brain waves moving. And that's all we want, right? We just want to distract ourselves. We just want a break from all the monotony of the day. So now step 4, heal the root wound. And this is where professional help comes in. The pause, the tracking, the replacing, ये सब बहुत helpful है. But if the root wound is deep, like childhood conditioning, toxic relationship trauma, self-worth issues, then you need someone to go there with you safely. And that's what therapy does. That's what my sessions do. We go to the root, not to the symptom. The spending is the symptom. The wound underneath is what we heal. And this is what healing looks like. It's not dramatic, it's just not overnight, it's not super easy, it's just real. So, now that we are coming close to this session on emotional spending, I just want you all to know that I'm here if you need to chat, if you need to book a session, if you need to just listen and do absolutely nothing by not spending money, that works as well. Whatever happens, just remember that you accept yourself, you love yourself, and anything that is a problem can be worked upon. So, see you for next time.